Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 516. This is your guide to the geek side, and we are two of your dedicated hosts to make sure you're up to speed on all the world of nerd. This week, it's myself, Todd Oxtra. I'm here getting ready for March Madness. March 17th is coming up. It's it's a big holiday. It's my sister's birthday. And Charlie, I was at Costco and they had the most Irish thing in the world. They had shamrock-shaped ravioli that were green and white. What could be more Irish than ravioli?
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. Hey, well, it's a virtual Colors of Benetton ad. I typically, I don't think I'd want to eat green. Like, was it the right kind of green colored pasta? Like dark, like what do they call the little shapes? The rotini? Like the little corkscrew pasta, like you'll get a box from them and they'll be all different shapes or different colors, right? Was it kind of like that, or were they like
depending if you're getting adult pasta and you might get something different?
Or was it like green, like green, like
it's Kelly green?
Like
I mean, it's Kelly green. It's
if you're following my finger on YouTube, that is my Lucky Charms hat that I got from a General Mills rep at a food show in Indiana. Is it that color green? Are you following my finger?
That color. Yeah, it's Kelly green, Lucky the Charms green, and oh, by the way, Lucky the leprechaun will be at a General Mills, so I'll get to say hi with him. Maybe I'll get a picture.
I'm so excited. There you go. Look for it on our social media. But anyway, I'm glad to be back. I was in Hotlanta for a week for work for an industry convention. I did not see anybody from Marvel. Unfortunately, I don't know where Pinewood Studios is in Atlanta.
You didn't see any of The Walking Dead down in Atlanta either?
I did. No, I wasn't that far south. It was funny when I was in Atlanta, worked for a different rep from about 7-8 years ago. I was not that far because I was south of town for a factory training, but that town of Sonoya was not far from where I was, but I didn't have a car. So I couldn't go exploring. Kind of a bummer. That was back when, remember our old friend Ray Causey? He and I were going to get together because he lives not far from there, but it was just the time did not materialize. So kind of a bummer. But anyway, it's good to be back. We've got a great show for you as always. We're getting into talking about the new Daredevil series. We have a movie to talk about. But first and foremost, absolutely love to talk about the awesome folks at our Patreon Secret Friends Squad. As you know, we've been doing Patreon for a couple of years now. Got a lot of great exclusive programming. We've got early shows. We've got shows with no ads, different Discord benefits. You can try those out for 7 days for free and then stay on board for as little as $2 a month, or as I like to say it, that's a lot of entertainment for $2. Great folks like my buddy Derek.
There's no tariffs on our show either.
No, that's right.
It's still the same price.
You're right. All around the world. Ouch, that was a little political of you, Todd. Easy now. My friend Derek joins us. Francie, who is my wife's awesome hairdresser. Our buddy Luke Lore. My Uncle Tim. John Sedorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters, Entertainment, Kelly and Crayley. Crayley just welcomed a new baby girl, I believe, just in the last week or so. I saw in Kelly's post, so congratulations, Crayley. Brandon Myers, Corey in HD, Matthew Keel, my very good buddy, Kurt Krug, who helps us out with those great spotlight interviews that you hear over on Patreon, but you also see them on our free feed as well, so definitely a reason to tune in. And our buddy Tanya Lee down there in Alabama. And, of course, our awesome secret friend, Super Duper Squad, the folks who help us make it all happen, the great Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry, which actually segues me back to Todd to talk about something else the Nias family's helping us out with.
Yeah. Just want to remind folks, our giveaway for 5 Patreon annual subscriptions at the best, the Friends with Benefits level is still going on. But the good news is you don't even have to do as much as you had to do before. Now you just have to email us with the subject Patreon giveaway, and we'll pick winners at random. So, enter. There's nothing to lose, and you could win an annual subscription. So thank you all for joining us along this journey, and we want you to benefit as a friend with benefit.
And, of course, that email is secretfriendsunite, all one word, @gmail.com. It'll be in the show notes, I'm sure. Push a button as you're looking at it on your phone. It'll open an email. You'll say, "Give me some Patreon," and we'll put the names. We'll put the names in a hat. We'll shake it up. We'll do one of those, like, what do they do? Like the lotto numbers. Oh, we'll put it in Todd's bald guy hat, flat cap. And he'll
I call it a newsy cap.
Oh
Yes.
my God. My buddy, Jonathan Snedeker, who I do one of our Patreon segments with, he's my bar buddy at Brewery Vivant here in Grand Rapids. He's a bald guy too, and he always wears one of those. So I've been thinking about getting one, and I still have hair, but I think they're very stylish. That is it's an Irish thing. It is. I remember that from my trip to Ireland all those years ago. But anyway, turning our vision from the Emerald Isle and flat caps over to the mean streets of New York City, this week's cover, Todd, April 23 of 1974. That was my mother's 24th birthday. Oh my gosh, that was my mother's birthday. Nice pick. I'm very good with
my
the numbers.
Goodness, your mother was 27 when she had you?
She was, yeah. So my dad was 26, yeah. And this would have been just months before my brother was born. He was born in October of 74. So anyway, the Marvel premiere title, and this would have been a very early appearance of the character Iron Fist, which really is apropos to what we're going to talk about in the Thunderdome, because Iron Fist was a character on the Netflix Marvel shows. He had his own show, right? One season of his own show?
Yes, he did, Charlie.
Oh,
he did.
Yeah.
Remember, it was like one of the worst soap operas I've ever seen.
It was bad because, Rand Industries was like a C-level, like Stark Enterprises ripoff. But anyway, he is fighting. Oh my God, I'm going to have to peek. It's over and too far on my screen. He's fighting a dude who says, well, don't jump ahead because I was going to read the word bubble. Your kung fu fireworks won't help you. What does that say? Marked man.
You masked man.
I thought it said Mark. Yeah, okay. I'm squinting. You masked man against the scythe, and it is a guy wearing basically a purple onesie. But I never see this in real life when someone is so muscly that they've got like biceps in their legs, like on the top and stuff. But that's always the case. And Danny Ryan,
I mean, looking at the two of us, I mean, we should know what big muscles look like in definition.
I know that's why I'm wearing the shirts, just ripping loose. But anyway, yes, he's got a scythe and he's got a big chain wrapped around Iron Fist's neck. And I do love Iron Fist's outfit. He wears slipper socks. And he wears a green onesie with the deepest V that you will ever see. It goes down to the sash that's wrapped around his waist, and he wears just like basically a do-rag pulled down over his head, like a real tight mask. And then he's got the highest collar you'll ever see.
Toppest of collars, like the Nightwing collar. Yeah, exactly. He's popping the collar.
But he did it first. Nightwing was in the 80s. So anyway, Iron Fist is having quite a thought while he's getting choked. He's right. I can't break chains, smash. Hold on, I'm going to move over. This is really hard.
Do I need to read this?
I'm squinting. Smash concrete with my bare fist, but if he strikes me with the razor sharp blade, I'm a dead man. Sorry, it was on the far corner of my screen. Couldn't get it. So in the Jaws, and it says in a box at the bottom, Jaws of the Dragon, which doesn't seem to apply to anything. So there's a lot going on here, and none of it seems to connect. It's very weird. But yeah, Marvel Premiere was one of those. It was kind of like little one-shots. They just sneak in a character. Like one of the scrolling images I have on my other screen, which is the background, was an issue of Marvel Premiere that was the first solo adventure that Wonder Man ever had back when he wore his great safari outfit, that's one of my, let me see if I can pick him up without knocking things over. My great safari Wonder Man. I love him.
The leisure suit, hero costume. But, you know, I mean, this is kind of interesting because Iron Fist had been he trained in Kunlun. He basically was reincarnated. The next,
you were going to say
reinfisted, because every generation there's basically someone becomes the Iron Fist.
Oh, is it like
the transfer of power and ability?
It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Apocalypse from the X-Men, right? Or in the movie anyway. Yeah.
But apparently he'd been traveling to New York, and there was a big bust up in this. But yes, essentially Marvel Premiere, everybody got like a couple of issues to go in there. Yeah. Basically, I think to get a gauge, like, would this
is this character
really deserve his own book? Right. So yeah, Iron Fist is one of those characters, and I think he finally started gaining traction. And I don't know what put the two of them together, but when Power Man and Iron Fist came together, that's when they those characters really got a lot of synergy for success and really got some momentum. And that was, I think it was like early 80s.
Yeah. Their title was, because this with 25. Well, we know this is 1974, but yeah, I think their title started in the very early 80s, and it ran for a 75 issues, maybe closer to 100. But yeah, they were the ebony and ivory of the early 80s of the Marvel. They were Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder of the superheroes.
And I think then they went and formed Heroes for Hire, which essentially that
was the title, because that's what they called it.
Heroes for Hire? I thought it was just Power Man and Iron Fist.
Oh, the name of the book. Yeah, you're right. I think there was a subsequent book that was just called Heroes for Hire, but that was the 90s or the 2000s. But anyway, the mean streets of New York City in 1974, fighting for dominance over Aunt May in her little wheelchair with the blanket, was our own senior news correspondent, Madam Web. She's everywhere all the time, but she's got the latest scoops and news for us, hanging out down there at the corner of Hollywood and Vine in sunny Hollywood, California. Let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Web's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Web. Madam Web, we watched the Oscars this last weekend. It was a fun show. They always have the stars, who left us in that year. And once again, you escaped being on that. You lived another day, 125 years young, maybe 125 years more.
Right. Yes. We want to have her with her when she's 250. All right. What are some really questionable movies that have been made about board games in the last 20-something years? I think of Battleship is the big one. I think of Rihanna.
Was it Rihanna?
Yeah, okay. It was Rihanna, where you're supposed to believe that she was. Yeah. What was the second one you said? Oh, the aliens.
Aliens. It was an alien invasion, and the battleships had to take them out.
She was a never say die like sailor. It was because it was Battleship's Navy. Did
they have to then the only way they could the radar got turned off, but the only way they could defeat them was saying go to coordinates A2.
and you saw a big red peg kind of fly in the sky and go.
Is that what they do? I don't know.
I'm waiting for the Cards Against Humanity movie. That's gonna that'd be a great one. But anyway, Lionsgate, provider of movies, is making a Monopoly movie. And the screenplay will be written by the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves writers. You see, that's a movie that I enjoyed. But again, that's a great one. It's not exactly a board game.
It's so much better. It's such a fun movie. Yeah. I love that movie. Love the cast. It was great.
Yeah. That was a fun one. So, but anyway, the writers, John Francis Daley, who of course got his start on Freaks and Geeks when he was a kid in the year 2000. I love that show. I think
he was an actor on that show.
He was the main character. Yeah. You didn't know that?
Was he? Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah. With, what's her name? His sister was
Linda Cardellini, my Italian cousin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the show that launched Seth Rogen, and it launched James Franco. James Franco. Yeah.
We don't talk about James Franco anymore, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, geez. I don't know. You'll have to fill me in later. I don't know what he did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the third guy was who's Marshall on How I Met Your Mother. He did
and then there was the other. Yeah, there was the other nerds around the show. Yeah, a lot of good ones,
Martin Starr. Yeah, Martin Starr. Yeah, that launched a lot. But anyway, so it's him and his screenwriting partner Jonathan Goldstein, who are behind that movie.
He wrote a Spider-Man: Homecoming and Horrible Bosses too.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's and he still acts. He was a regular on Bones, I think, which was a show with Emily Deschanel that my wife loved that show. Bones. But yeah, Monopoly movie. What are they? I mean, you know what? Let's hold on a sec. Let's tot a movie here. Give me a paragraph on what the Monopoly movie could be about. Just a paragraph.
And this is going to be produced by Margot Robbie and her company Lucky Chip. Quite honestly, she knows something about toys being put on film. But if you want my pitch for the Monopoly movie,
do it.
We'll go there. This is a rise of fame for a young boy born with a monocle and a mustache, made fun of. He was homeless, and every time he walked around his city, He was kicked around Baltic Avenue. The railroads wouldn't let him on. He
Electric
would
company.
walk past the prison. He'd go past
Get out of
that go
jail.
sign, and he would get robbed every time. And he ended up finding a trinket, a little toy dog that was actually worth a lot. So he took that toy dog, took it to Pine Shop, got $50. He invested that $50 into a slum, became a slumlord, and then took everything over. That is the story.
That's the story of Mr.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. I want to
Yes.
see it. It did. Yeah. So this has been in development hell since 2007.
Ridley Scott was supposed to direct this film? What?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that when this does happen, watch out. Because I think
I like the writers, and I think they could do something so weird that could be so much fun. What if it's like war games, Charlie? Like you got kids actually like online trading, but they don't playing a game, and they don't realize that they're actually planning a city, and like it's something weird. Just go weird, go crazy. God. Let's have fun. Yeah,
I guess. Oh my goodness.
There was a skit on SNL. You might have seen this too, where John Lovitz plays Mr. Monopoly. It was great. Like the character Mr. Monopoly gets out of gets them out of jail because he has those get out of jail free cards, and they have to accept it.
Well, I'm just as a quick sidebar, reminded me of John Lovitz as in the when they did a sketch back in the 80s that was the alternate ending of It's a Wonderful Life, and he played Mr. Potter.
Yes,
where
Mr. Potter.
They just all marched down there and beat him to death because he ripped off George Bailey. All right, well, I can't even talk about what's coming next because the month of April is giving me like my two most favorite modern shows coming back for a second season. So Todd, by all means.
All right. So yes, we've got The Last of Us 2. We'll hit on the good news, which is we got a new trailer for The Last of Us season 2. And it's showing a lot of new things, especially a lot of like threats, which is great. We've got the clickers in the winter snowscape. We've got explosions. Yes. We've got Ellie that basically it sounds like Joel finally revealed what happened at the end of season 1.
Well. Yeah, because she confronts him.
So we feel like
that's what's that's what
that is a part of the game. Kind of that the consequences of Joel's actions come back to haunt him in season 2. We do get more views of different characters that are going to be part of this season. And it's definitely going to be a wild ride and definitely not a feel-good story. So season 2 can't come soon enough. We're in April for that, and it's going to be great. Probably 10 episodes is what I'm guessing. And
they were a lean 6. Unless they decided to expand it.
Okay.
No, it was only, which is great because it's crazy. It's a super easy watch. It's amazing what they did in 6 episodes. One of which was the expanded story about the couple that was not part of the game. So basically, they took the game and did it in 5 episodes, and covered the whole thing.
Yeah, it wasn't the game, but it was just like a little. We met that character.
Right. Yeah. I remember seeing that.
And then, and it was just kind of like taking that moment and then like in the game, you just met that character. You never found out anything about it, but I liked how they expanded that. So,
they did it well.
So we did get a little bit of pivots to basically incorporate the first season for the first game. This is the news that might be a little surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So there is no Last of Us Part 3 announced game-wise. So those games have always taken a long period of time. Basically, it's at the beginning, like the end of the PlayStation 3 is when Last of Us Part 1 came out. Yeah. The end of the PlayStation 4 is when The Last of Us Part 2 came out. Well, now it's been 5 years since the PlayStation 5 has been out. And typically it's 3 more years before we get a new console. And they have not even announced this game is coming out. And they've already announced a new game that's coming out that is going to be completely different than Last of Us. It's called Intergalactic, which is a space adventure game. They've done Uncharted before that, too.
It's The Most of Us instead of The Last of Us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. The series creator Neil Druckmann has said, "Don't hold your breath." That's kind of a bummer.
But what I think is cool, I think Neil is getting more into. He wants to, because a lot of his games are very cinematic. They very feel like a movie brought to life with.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is, he thinks even if there's not a game to draw from, he's the creator of this universe. It's not like George R. R. Martin where he can't get a book out. I mean, to make the game is taking forever, but for him to make the story is not going to take a million years to do. So he could essentially say, this is canonical for the TV series, but since we don't have a game, this is going to be more in that universe. And he can say, I can play with this because there's no canon. I am making this up, not as I go along, but basically I can take ideas from the second game, draw those out, introduce characters, and go blow up things. And I can see where they could do that because, honestly, there are things in 2 that I feel like were barely touched on. They're like, there's more there, but we didn't get it. So this doesn't bother me if there's not a game to base it on.
I mean, it would be like if George R. R. Martin was actually writing the Game of Thrones instead of they ran out of material and then they just kind of went rogue and we got the end of that show that nobody likes because he wasn't involved, right? I mean, how much involvement did he really have in the television show besides providing the source material?
So he was an executive producer, so he did have input, and he did. Obviously, they had all the books to play from, and then he gave them an outline of like what he had planned for the end of his books. So he gave them something, but he didn't give them like lines of dialogue. He didn't give them major plot points or like things. He just kind of said, this is what's going to happen with an outline. And then they basically had to figure it out on their own, which George can bitch and complain all he wants about them, not ending the way he wanted it to. But quite honestly, dude, unless you've got a story to say this is what you should have done, we're still waiting for that damn book to be done. Yeah. And it's been like 10 years.
I know. You know what? I bet he didn't cry that much when he was cashing those checks.
Yeah. So Charlie, cool. All I will say is be prepared. It's going to be a very hard season. This season, our game does not have a lot of positive and happy feel-good moments.
And they're breaking it up, right? Because that's what I heard another podcast talk about. They're breaking it up in this second game into seasons 2, seasons 3. That's
absolutely. And there's a way they can do that. It makes total sense. It makes total sense, gotcha. And we'll see how that goes.
I will, that means that it's going to be another several years before I can even watch the cutscenes movie because it would spoil season 3, right? By the sound of it, or I'd have to know where to stop. I'd have to know where to stop it. So if I watched,
did you see the cutscenes for the first game? Okay,
sure
there was things that were there, but I would say don't worry. But if you don't want to be spoiled,
don't worry, be happy. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I can't wait. That is April 13. And then the next week we get Andor season 2, which, I mean, the trailer for that, which I'm sure you guys talked about last time, was just, oh my God.
The vibe of that new trailer was pretty cool because it makes you feel like, for everybody that thought season 1 was too snoozy, it's giving you a lot more vibes.
Here we're going to be blowing
down.
Yeah, blowing shit up, and it's going to be great. All
Rebellion is live and televised.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, with that great song by Steve Earle, who I know a little bit about Steve Earle's music, but he was a recurring character in The Wire because he's a Baltimore guy. He was, I think, the guy who ran the AA group. And he's just one of these like down and dirty musician dudes. But anyway.
That's so weird to finally have it. It was kind of like when Star Trek did the Enterprise theme. It's like, that's an interesting choice.
I don't know that I would necessarily compare the two because the Enterprise, the Faith of the Heart thing is so reviled. People can't stop talking about it, and it's been 20 years since that show got canceled. It's horrible. All right, well, moving on. Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon. You know what I watched last night that I hadn't watched in a long time? Because something tipped me off to
Wild
it.
Things?
No.
Great movie.
I did watch that. Movie. I watched that last year when I was in a hotel or something, just because some time to kill. But no, I watched the X-Men First Class where he was the villain. God, he was so I know that was your favorite X-Men movie for a while, and then I followed it up with Days of Future Past, which is my favorite X-Men movie.
Oh yeah,
and then I unfortunately said maybe I'll just keep going. I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Stop yourself, Charlie.
No, I didn't, but I will stop myself from watching The Dark Phoenix. That's not happening. But anyway, Kevin Bacon is back on Prime Video with something called The Bondsman, a new horror comedy series. From Blumhouse. Okay, has Blumhouse done a comedy really with their horror yet? I mean, Megan was kind of a comedy, and Todd, you're going to have to watch it.
Is Hard Eyes them? Is that Blumhouse or not? Because I've heard that's like a rom-com. Eric talked about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Movie. I don't recall anything that jumps out to say comedy from Blumhouse.
Yeah, And this is all 8 episodes of this show will drop on April 3rd. So it's just a little less than a month from
Amazon's doing that. That's crazy. That's weird.
Well, they do. It's like Reacher is on right now, which I assume you haven't. That's why I'm not touched upon it. But
it's my pile of shame.
Yeah, it's
digital pile of shame.
Get caught up, man. But no, they did 3 episodes, and now they're back to doing 1 a week, which sucks because like the episode 5 was just out, and it was a super cliffhanger. It was like, getting, the school of thought around the whole, the big drop versus the weekly drops. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I mean, I know to your point, your stance is, if from a marketing standpoint, if you drop everything at once, it's there and then it goes away. Nobody's talking about it. So I don't know, and sometimes they also remember how when Marvel dropped Echo all at once, and we were like, well, it must be because it sucks, and it didn't. It was good. But it does give you the vibe that they drop things all at once because even they know it sucks. So I don't have any idea. So anyway, this feels like it's not the first horror thing Kevin Bacon's ever done.
No, he's done Stir of Echoes, which I really like that movie. Yeah, Tremors. He did Tremors.
Well, he was in his. If it was not his first role, it was very early on, the very first Friday the 13th.
That's right. Yeah. But it makes this makes me feel like he's embracing the role he played in Tremors, which I love that film. It was such a fun. Fred Ward. Yeah. What's his name? The dad from Family Ties. Reba McEntire.
Yes.
It was such a fun, dumb, like horror film, like sci-fi thing. And Kevin Bacon was great in it. He played a great character, just fun. And this is the story of basically Kevin Bacon. He's a kind of he dies. Instead of going to hell, he essentially has to kill demons as a bounty hunter.
Oh, man.
This just looks like a ton of fun. Like it feels like if Tremors was a TV series, this is what he would have done. Yeah. It's got it's basically David. That's weird. Granger is the first name. With Eric Olson, who did Arrow and Carnival Row. He's got supporting cast of Jolene Purdy from The White Lotus, Beth Grant, The Mindy Project, Jennifer Nettles, The Righteous Gemstones.
Ooh, that comes back tonight, Jenkins, by the way. Yeah.
Lost in Space, and Damon Herman from Justified. So, but if he dies or if he doesn't get a demon, he goes to hell right away. And part of this is he wants to get his life back together. So he's going to see if he can get back to playing in his band, get them on the road and make things right with his maybe ex-wife and his kid. And he's got I think it's his mom is kind of like his sidekick along the ways, which is an older lady, which might be Jolene Purdy, might be the old lady. I don't know.
Gotcha.
No.
You know what? It's funny you say if he doesn't get one, he goes right back to hell. It's kind of like do not pass go, do not collect $200. So maybe this will tie back to that Monopoly movie. I'm just saying maybe that's a plot line. I did like her.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Jennifer Nettles, I think is she the old lady? So the other lady is not the old lady. She's kind of like his agent in hell.
Yeah, no, Jennifer Nettles.
Nettles is young.
She's in she's in Sugarland. The Sugarland, which is a country group. But she's the main character in The Righteous Gemstone, which comes back. Okay. That's a super cool show. That comes back.
Beth Grant is the older woman that you see. Okay, she was in the movie. I got it. You'll know her when you see her. She'll be like, "Oh, I recognize that lady." Yeah.
Right.
So there you go.
So anyway, just a couple weeks from that. All right.
April 3rd.
Fun story that I heard this about. It's on another podcast, but everybody knows the number one sniveling yes man in George Lucas's life is Rick McCallum. from back in the prequels. He was says the famous line that John always likes to quote. There's so much going on in every shot. You can't possibly understand everything that's happening all the time. I think he's part of the reasons why the prequels turned out the way they did. But anyway, they're rolling out talking about this show that would have been one of the last projects that George would have done before he decided to sell out, called Underworld, which would have been set on Coruscant, which is the big city planet that's the focus of the prequels, and all about bounty hunters and kind of crook stuff that goes on in Star Wars. And what Rick is talking about in this interview he gave is that each episode, they had 60 episodes planned. Each episode was going to cost $40 million to produce. 40 times 60 equals out $2.4 billion to make this series.
Don Williams was going to score each episode.
Okay.
And Charlie, there would have been a huge budget for cocaine and hookers. I mean, really? $40 million every episode?
It would have. So you're saying it would have been like the Star Wars Holiday Special, which was once quoted as being if a sentient bag of cocaine could write a screenplay.
I think there's a Pokemon that is essentially a bag of cocaine. He's called Twitchy.
Gogasaur Twitchy. Let him tweak. But anyway, yeah. So this was obviously put down for a lot of different reasons. And then obviously subsequently in 2012, George sold out to Disney. And we still got Kathleen Kennedy, and she gave us Mando and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan and Andor, which comes back. I feel like maybe she didn't touch Andor that much, and that's why it's so good. I don't know. Maybe it's just my vibe. I have no idea.
Let him cook, Kathleen. Let him cook.
Exactly. So I can't even imagine what a $40 million television episode could possibly look like.
What's the most expensive? Is it Game of Thrones? Was that the most expensive?
Probably.
TV series? I'm just going to look it up.
Yeah. But yeah, Rick was quoted as saying these were dark, they were sexy, they were violent, they were just absolutely wonderful. See what I mean? The bullshit train is kind of unstoppable.
Star Wars, they go right together, right, Charlie?
Yeah. We talked for a long time about how nothing sexual in Star Wars ever feels like normal. Wonderful, complicated, challenging.
Awkward, yeah.
Yeah, awkward, yeah, exactly.
Kind of like that Star Wars, the Shadows of the Empire card deck that had just a random naked woman. It was drying herself off.
You gave me a deck of cards of the trading cards from Shadows of the Empire. I think that was it's on the shelf behind me. I could open it. I thought it was Leia. And you don't make me go and look it up.
It didn't look like Leia though. It's weird.
I mean, but it was yeah. But anyway,
what other women were in that book? It was
Leia, and there was the replicant who was the assassin, but she was blonde. I think it was Leia. I'm sorry. I'll look it up when we're done here. When we're waiting for the show to upload, I'll reach over and get that binder and I'll confirm it for you.
So this is what I found. There was an article from Collider, most expensive TV series. And I think at this point, because it keeps going, but you talk about like through time, adjusted for inflation. Obviously, Friends, the longer it went, their salaries got bigger, but it was like still adjusted for inflation. But let's go with the one that's actually fairly new. So we had two. So we had the Lord of the Rings: Ring of Power.
Oh yeah,
$58 million per episode. Holy cow.
That's just indulgence. It's ridiculous. It's get it under control.
You've got certain things like the morning show. That's a new Apple TV Plus. $50 million. That must just pay for the salaries.
It's salaries, yeah. You got all these big people. I will cap this off as by saying, Rick finishes with this. This would have blown up the whole Star Wars universe, and Disney never would have offered George the money to buy it. But it's one of the great disappointments of our life. That just sounds like crap.
They didn't even have a network at the time. They were putting shows on Disney Disney.
Yeah,
XD.
Where would it have even?
Who would have fronted that amount of cash? Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy.
Even the movies didn't cost that much. I mean,
exactly.
It's not like
no 60-hour movie has cost $2.4 billion.
That's true. There's never been a 60-hour movie. Last show, this is a show called Citadel. $50 million per episode, 7 episodes. I've never even heard of the show.
I know. Well, it's not money well spent. We'll wrap this up, but I have to sneak in. I grabbed this off of Comic Book Movie, but they have a Star Wars Mara Jade TV series rumored to be in the works. Could Zendaya play the Emperor's hand? I'm not even going to touch
I'm sure that's what Zendaya would like to do.
Yeah, I'm sure she wants to be part of Star Wars. All right. Okay. I'll take us quickly through. It's been a while since we've had a potpourri story that's just something totally random and bizarre. But here's my potpourri story that I found while looking through Geek Tyrant. There's now a robot that exists that has martial arts skills. And I decided to put this in our show flow is, do you want to have Skynet? Because this is how you get Skynet. So yes, it's exactly that. Unitree Robotics has just introduced its G1 humanoid robot, and it's flexing its martial arts skills. A new video showcases the robot executing high kicks, fluid stances, and precision strikes. If this shows up at your wife's Taekwondo studio, I think you should get her to change studios because it's just not going to end well, man. But it's surprisingly affordable. Comes with a price tag of only $16K. Oh, they say it's a hefty sum, but if you can spend $2.4 billion to make a 60-hour TV series, I bet you can pick up one of these.
This is priceless. This is priceless. This does sound like something that was from like Futurama or like a Conan O'Brien skit. And I like this. It says Unitree is setting some ground rules. Don't teach it actual combat moves, which is probably for the best, of course. And now this is the sad part. Now, if you're a Kung Fu bot and then they say, well, that's not going to happen. Actually, Unitree envisions the robot assisting in homes, hospitals, and factories.
Not kicking people.
Tireless precision. I'm like, what if you were designed for Kung Fu and then you're like,
you're doing the dishes.
Groceries.
Yeah, I did. I got to do the laundry. So that's what's going to cause a robot uprising, because these robots will eventually, they'll develop feelings. It'll just be the Cylons. Think about Battlestar Galactica. This is this series Caprica, because that was, the robots are just doing construction jobs and they're walking your dog and they're picking up dog shit in your yard. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, they're bombing all of our cities. I think it's a bad notion. But anyway, that takes us out of the news. Todd, it is time to get ourselves over to the Geek Easy. I have ordered an Uber XXXL, which is a very fancy Cadillac something or other. I get in, it smells great in here, but the guy still listens to AM radio, which is really weird to me. And doggone it, if you wouldn't know it, here's a very familiar advertisement.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands play, and drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So, Charlie, I don't know if you finished this, but have you finished Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
Oh, dude, come on now. I'm a
Okay,
Spider-Man guy.
Just want to confirm. Okay,
I'm a Spider-Man
I
guy.
finally finished Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It was 10 episodes long. I believe it was released weekly for the most part, I believe, or maybe they dropped a couple here and there. But this is Marvel's, I would say, true second animation project with Disney that really, beyond like, other shows that have been out, like Devil, was it Devil, Dinosaur, and Girl? Some of those shows.
Something that was for adults, as it were.
I would say that felt more in the wheelhouse of like the old days when it was Spider-Man, the animated series, and also, X-Men, the animated series, kind of like those, both two things. So this show, though, really successful to me, did so much good. And while it felt like MCU at times, it obviously wasn't. It pivoted in ways that I thought were great. Like when there was that battle with the airport for Civil War, Spidey wasn't there. It still happened. The Sokovia Accords happened. Right?
I loved this because it was a heel turn in the first episode, and I love it how they brought it all the way back around to connect the first episode and the last episode. But it was that moment with the big fight with Doctor Strange shows up that made you feel like a lot of these elements still existed in the MCU. Like Nico still went to that other high school he ended up at. You know what I mean? Spoilers, by the way. Sorry. Show's been off for a while. My apologies. People have probably watched it. But like all those other things still happen, but he didn't meet Ned, and he didn't meet, MJ. Though I feel like Ned was already his buddy before high school, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. Yep. I felt like there was some interconnective, and there was there's no Norman Osborn in the MCU, because remember from in the No Way Home, when Willem Dafoe comes in, he says, "My building isn't there and my apartment isn't there." So strike what I just said, because it doesn't make any sense. This is definitely a totally separate entity.
This is 612. I don't know.
610-12 exactly. But yeah, I really, really dug it, but it makes you wonder, because we never really did see how Tom Holland Spider-Man got his powers. But was it something like this? It was probably nothing like this, but it was great. And the guy that they got to voice Peter Parker really sounded like Tom Holland. I mean, they really absolutely nailed it. I loved Coleman Domingo being Norman Osborn. Coleman Domingo was the main villain in Fear the Walking Dead, which is the first time I ever saw him in anything, and he was fantastic. He's the new, how you used to see Sterling K. Brown and everything. He's the new Sterling K. Brown, because he's in everything these days.
Oh, it's great, and you've got like some really good voice talent. I mean, let's see, Grace Song is an actress you've seen before. Hugh Dancy, Charlie Cox, obviously playing Daredevil, which just a little bit of Daredevil. He was really good in the one episode, but just a little bit. But Charlie Cox playing that voice character. And I'm going to ask, Kate, pause for a second. Spoilers. Don't listen right now. Who is the girl at the end of the episode with Daredevil? Can't remember the character.
I
Masked. I don't remember who that was.
I don't remember now, because it was a while back now for me.
So nothing was spoiled. I just asked a question. Nobody knows. But I really like the turns of characters. Like, I loved how they handled Doc Ock. I love that scene where he's getting taken down. So classy, so good. Then we get another character. I'll just say his name. If you'll have to watch, figure this. Tombstone. I'm like, that's such a cool take on Tombstone. I'm like, that's neat. I like how they did the turn.
Because the origin of Tombstone in the comics was intermingled with Robbie Robertson. They grew up on the streets of Philadelphia together, and Robbie had written a report or something that got Tombstone thrown in jail or whatever it is, and then that's when we met the character. That was actually from the Spectacular Spider-Man run of J.M. DeMatteis, who you and I talked to yesterday. I think he created that character, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, yeah. I remember in that, because he was really John. I remember, was it John or Sal, the brother Buscemos?
Sal.
Yeah.
Sal.
I loved his art style, because it was different take. It was a little bit more hard edged. And it was already cool. And I do remember that Tombstone and the way he was drawn was very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many cool things that are going to be followed up with season 2, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's great. I loved the whole, where the first episode goes into the last episode, and you get that connection, which is amazing.
Yeah. Dug it.
And then we do get like where we're going next, what they're going to do. And then there was one thing at the very end. I won't give it away, but that is once again another piece. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Charlie, where May visits someone at the very end. It's like, oh, that twists things a little bit more. So
right.
I love where this is going. It's fun. I'm very pleased with Marvel animation so far. Obviously, What If is the first one they did, but that was a little bit more just playing around with the MCU. Proper.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of shows like this, where like we get a Fantastic Four cartoon, an Avengers cartoon.
They're branching out.
And do some crazy, wacky things. Maybe get your West Coast Avengers series, Charlie.
Yes.
It could be fun. And if you do it right, use the comics and then just have fun with it and elevate the scripts. Because, hey, Master Pandemonium could be cool in the right hands, Charlie.
Maybe. I have a pitch for exactly that because I'm rereading it right now and I don't even know what tipped me off, but I own a trade paperback. Operation Galactic Storm. It was from the early 90s.
Which I've never read. I saw it and I'm like, that looks like a lot of reading.
It was all the Avengers characters at the time, both teams, because East and West, mixed in with a war between with the Kree and the Shi'ar, and it was they were having a battle that was spilling over into Earth, and it was all of our guys fighting them. And at the end of it, it was one of these Iron Man and Cap moments where they had to split because Iron Man and his group wanted to kill the Supreme Intelligence. Cap said no, and the Avengers went ahead and did it anyway. So then it became this whole thing. I would love it. That would make a great like little mini series if they but all the weird characters, Living Lightning and Quasar, like all the 90s characters were in there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then the Shi'ar is even weirder with all of those characters. You can bring in the Starjammers, you can bring them in. That's fun.
They did. They had it was Eric Masterson Thor at the time, and he one of the issues because it crossed over through all of the individual titles of the character. So it was Thor, Quasar, Captain America, Wonder Man, his title, which I love that I know nobody cares about Wonder Man. Rick Jones was because it was spinning off of the Kree Scrolls.
Was Rick Jones part of what was the character Rick Jones, like the Negabands and
Captain
was that Quasar?
He's right behind me, Captain Marvel. Do you see him behind me? But
Captain Marvel,
Captain Mar-Vel. But anyway, it was funny. I'm off on a I was going to talk about this, but I'm off on a tangent. But go ahead.
Yeah, but so great. I cannot wait. And it sounds like season 2 is coming out next year. So Marvel is moving forward with yearly releases, which I think is the smartest thing they can do. Having 3 years or never knowing when the series is coming back.
Yeah.
Because most Marvel shows, TV shows are like that.
Totally deflates,
3 years later, or is it a one-off? I don't know what's going to happen. So the animated stuff shouldn't have to rely on that stuff. It should be able to just be its own thing. And it brings in fanboys like us that satisfy us. And it'll bring in kids. Quite honestly, it will bring in kids versus going weird and going all over the place. So I like this. Yeah, very cool. We both saw a movie. You saw it before I did, but I finally got to see it. And that is Mickey 17. This movie is by the director of Parasite, Bong
Joon-ho. Oh shit! I messed it up.
Let me look it up. I'll just look up
Bong.
his.
Is it Boone or Bong? Please look it up.
Bong Joon-ho.
Wow, we keep screwing it up.
Oh god, man, I'm bad with that. But yeah, he's the director. He's a renowned director. He doesn't do a lot of movies, but he is also did. I think he did Snowpiercer. That was one of his first movies.
That's good.
Parasite, Okja, Seafog, bunch of and The Host. That was a horror film he did. I thought he also did Last Train to Busan, where it was these zombie, which I heard is a really great movie about zombies on a subway in Korea, South Korea.
Oh, nice.
So, so this is his sci-fi take based on a book called Mickey 17 about the future that's very weird. And essentially,
and it was if I get the weekly thing, guys, we're talking about this. It's the very near future. It's like 2050, something like that. And it's funny. The one comment the one guy made is, well, the politics seem very similar, which is funny because that's exactly what you get out of the main antagonist, which is played by Mark Ruffalo, and he's wearing big teeth. And and Toni Collette is his wife, where she just
basically, Charlie. What brought me to them is I felt like I was watching Jim Baker and Tammy Faye. That's what they seemed like to me, tied in with some other things, but that's what it felt like because it was like in the near future. Basically, they're sending off this vessel to
Find a planet.
find a new planet.
Yeah.
New Nephilim is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
And to survive
Niflheim.
that long, they take all these people, and he's this Mark Ruffalo's character. He is a discredited politician, but he gets to be the commander of this vessel. Go
Right.
forward,
And he holds little group therapy sessions where it's a Trump rally. I'm sorry, we're going to come right down and say
very
it.
weird. They it's like a TV show. It feels like televangelist. There's a religious bent to it, and then you get all these people going to support there basically and repopulate it, and then. There was this thing going on where they were able to make replicants at the time of humans.
They can print people. So what Mickey, back on Earth, Mickey, he's just kind of a dipshit. And his buddy is Glenn from The Walking Dead, is Stephen Wen.
Yes.
And
man, always getting in trouble.
They're on the run from the mob, and they go to sign up to be on the ship. Stephen Wen has some piloting skills, so he gets a good job. Mickey he's a moron. He doesn't have any job skills.
Becomes an expendable.
So he signs up to be an expendable, which is somebody who will just do like crappy work, and if they get killed, they push they back up his brain once a week, but they push a button and they just print another him, which is it's funny that there's a religious aspect to this movie, and then there's the fact that people don't really have souls because we can just print you again. You know what I mean?
Very weird, and it's all about. That's why it's called Mickey 17, because essentially you get to see all the different ways the Mickeys die, and he's the 17th, and a lot of it is they use the Mickeys to just experiment, like here's a disease.
We're gonna breathe this in. So I don't want to spoil the ending for anybody because
I don't either.
I want people to go out and see it. This movie did moderately okay. Did about $20 million in the U.S.
Had a big budget though. I was surprised the budget for it, but it did look like it was expensive.
Yeah, they were running through some of the marketing numbers, so I don't necessarily know that this is going to be considered a success at the end of the day. But
I think this is too weird of a movie, Charlie. I was thinking it was going to be something. It came through, and I'm like, this is kind of weird. It reminds me of like when an actor takes on a persona of a character. It reminds me of like Tom Hardy with like Bane, and like that's an approach. And this one, we got Robert Pattinson doing like it was a mix of like a Boston, New York guy with a weird accent.
His voice was very
unattractive, very quirky, very weird. More of a sexier movie than I thought it was going to be, which was odd.
You're right. There ended up being some stuff about thruples and some bisexuality, and there's just a lot of weird.
It was weird.
In this film,
very weird movie. I mean, I enjoyed my time, but I'm like, the tone was just kind of sometimes all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. It was interesting.
They were trying to have a message, but then they weren't trying to have a message, and it was just it was. But anyway, I would say go see it, decide for yourself. It's fun, but if this movie is not a big success, it'll probably end up on streaming pretty quickly. Who's the studio? Where do you think this might land on streamers?
Oh, good question.
Because it's Warner Brothers, so it'll be on Max. It'll be on Max.
Yeah, probably. What are they? 3 months now? They usually movies come out 3 months later.
Depending on how well it does. If it does really bad, it could be 3 weeks.
I think they're smarter about it. Give it time. Maybe it'll get some momentum. I don't know.
Maybe so. But anyway, all right. Well, I'll jump through some stuff real quick. I'll jump through one that I've seen and then one that we watched together. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You've seen the show I'm going to talk about, right? Because I feel like you've mentioned it before.
The only reason I know of this show is because my wife has been watching the show. She's watched full seasons.
Well, I will say that this show is a perfect example of heavy marketing shoved right up your butthole, because ads for this showed up not only on Paramount Plus, but on other streamers. It's a show called School Spirits. Like everything, it's filmed in Canada, but it's the blonde gal from Cobra Kai. Yeah, what's her name? Peytonless. Thank you very much. And the show kicks off, and she appears to have died in her high school. And she's a spirit that is stuck within the confines of this building. But this is a high school that has been around for at least 75 years. And there are other ghosts in there of other kids who have died. And so the entire first season is her trying to figure out what happened, because she doesn't have any memory of it. And on the outside world, her mother, who is a struggling alcoholic, and her father has died previously. And the only person that can see her, because it's a typical thing, people can't see ghosts. The only person who can see her is her male best friend. So he can see her. So he's trying to help her on the outside. She's trying to help things on the inside. There's a big twist at the end of the first season that jumps us into the second season. And then I thought the show was over for good. We were able to rock it through because it's 2 8-episode seasons, not hard to tackle. But then I thought the show was going to end for good. The last episode dropped just this week, and then there's a twist at the end of the second season. But the problem is because of the writer's strike, the seasons were 2 years apart. So when do I get to see season 3? In 2 years? But we enjoyed it. I mean, Todd, you and I both have enjoyed, teen shows like, we watched Buffy and Dawson's Creek back in the day, and all, Smallville or stuff, Smallville obviously leaned to have obviously more of a fantastical or superhero bent. This is a little bit more of the occult. It's not violent. It's not grisly or anything like that. But it is a widely encompassing, winding mystery of figuring out who's behind all of it. And you think it's this, and there's a mystery.
Well, and there's more ghosts than just her too, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, there are ghosts there's one from the late 50s, one from the early 60s, one from the 70s, one from the 80s, one from
so you can do more with this. You can play around with it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they kind of move it back and forth. So I think it's fun. I'd recommend it. Again, it's on Paramount Plus. And the way they got to me is that the people at Paramount are advertising the shit out of this thing, because obviously they can do that to me because I'm there. I'm watching the Star Treks because I talk about the Star Treks on Code 47. So I'm on the Paramount app every week. And then this is one of the things, and they'll sneak an ad, it'll sneak an ad in on my local news.
Oh, they're doing what you said you hated about Netflix. Why are they showing me this stuff?
Exactly. But this is why, because they got me. So yeah, so it's fun, Todd. If your wife's already watching it, jump in. It's not going to be that you will not have a hard time picking it up if you just have.
No, she said season 2 was a little too slow though. So it was like, pacing was a little bit drawn out. She felt like
it is, because they introduced a situation that seemed pretty easily resolvable that doesn't happen until episode 8. So yes, you're correct. I agree with you. They do sneak in a pretty cool dance number to David Bowie's "Let's Dance." So you might
not have guessed that.
You might
Ghost Prom.
It was not a ghost prom, but it was a homecoming for the living people. But because the ghosts are stuck there, they go every year. So they had a dance routine they developed over 40 years to let. Do
the ghosts complain like music was better in my day?
They must do it off camera, because that does not end up coming up. All right. Finally, we have our first show on the MCU that is really jumping in fully force with pulling back in those Netflix characters. Now we've had Charlie Cox's Daredevil twice in the MCU. We've had him in Spider-Man No Way Home, which we talked about a little while ago. And then we had him as a great turn in She-Hulk, which I absolutely loved. But now he's back with his own show. And to say it's tonally different than those other two things that I mentioned is a whopping understatement, because, oh my God. I had to, Todd, I took a page from your book and I shared this on our Discord. I have absolutely no idea what happened in that other Daredevil show. I don't remember a damn thing.
I watched the recap I think you posted.
I did, because I watched it while I was gone, and then when I was gone in Atlanta, and then when I came home to and sat down with April, made her watch it, because I said, we're going to go into the show. We're not even going to have anything. And still watching that, the stuff with the opening sequence with that villain, my brain didn't even connect to what I had seen in the recap video, because it was so-and-so and this and that. But it's basically, the character in question it's Daredevil's top villain. So, I won't spoil it for you. We'll keep, because this just dropped.
If you watched the previous seasons, you know who it is. So, I mean, he came back.
For the purpose of this, I want to keep it kind of spoiler free, because it just came out. But yeah,
they showed that fight scene in they released that scene earlier. They showed that fight scene in the stairway before. So it's like, I don't even think they care if they spoil anything for anybody, to be honest.
I mean, people are either going to watch it or not, but this is kind of ripped from the headlines, because you've got the return. Oh, excuse me. We also had Vincent D'Onofrio return as Kingpin in Hawkeye, and then we had him in Echo as well, which spun off of his appearance.
And they touch on that and they do. I believe in some of it, yeah.
But they're basically, and you got this out of the trailers, the Kingpin is decided to go straight, so to speak, and run for mayor on the platform of he's basically like, and it's funny because J. Jonah Jameson in the comics was also once the mayor of New York City, but J. Jonah Jameson's focus at the Daily Bugle has always been, I'm going to take down Spider-Man because he's a vigilante and, he thinks he's above the law. So the Kingpin says, my platform is mayor. And of course he wins. Sorry, that's not a big spoiler there. It's not like he's going to run for mayor and lose. What the hell kind of storyline would that be? But his platform is, I'm going to take down all these vigilantes. But Matt Murdock has since given up being Daredevil, but we certainly find out by the end of the first episode, maybe they're not going to have a show called Daredevil where he's not going to be Daredevil. So I think he's going to be Daredevil. Wow.
No, they're going to change the title to Matt Murdock, Attorney at Law.
Yeah, right. And then She-Hulk will show up, and it'll be a it'll be an ongoing
twerking. There'll be funny cases of the week. I mean, it'll be like Night Court, but even more funny.
Oh my gosh! Goofy. So yes. People are blowing up about this. They absolutely love it. Todd, where do you land with this? Do you think they did it? Did they resurrect the character?
I mean, episode 1 was definitely a surprise. They did a lot of things. I mean, the fight scene is really excellent. Some of the violence was crazy over the top. Yeah. I didn't realize it was going to be that way.
Yeah.
So I really like that first episode. Episode 2, we are introduced to, there's a separate plot line with a certain character. I guess I didn't remember, and they didn't actually go in the recap, Charlie, a certain White Tiger. That character, I didn't know much about that character.
Was that from the other show?
I think so.
I know the character because White Tiger, big surprise, is a Spider-Man character from the 70s. It was that Spectacular Spider-Man that JM was the writer for. That was one of the first original characters introduced in that book that had not shown up in the Amazing Spider-Man first. And yeah, he was a recurring guest hero who would show up and help out Spider-Man with stuff.
I think I've seen him even on like he was in the cartoon, one of the Spider-Man cartoons too.
I mean, he was in this. He's portrayed as being a middle-aged guy. In the comics, he was a fellow student at Empire State University, where Peter Parker attended college. So they changed it, but because he talks about his amulet, which is the thing that gives him his power. So that really threw me off. But obviously it's going to be a big part of this. And we're also, judged by the trailers, going to get not only the return of John Bernthal as the Punisher, but we now know the Punisher is going to have a spinoff one shot, which I'm sure you talked about last week.
Oh, well, I'll share something. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll share something with you. But that character is interesting. Okay, I guess we'll know more. So I like that. My biggest concern, once again, I feel like it's like Superman always taking on Lex Luthor in the films. After a while, it gets old.
Right.
I hope there is more to this than just, once again, Kingpin and Punisher. Because I've heard there is going to be a secondary villain where maybe Strange Bedfellows, but after a while, you can only have Daredevil beat the shit out of Kingpin.
Well, it would be like if Spider-Man was always fighting the Green Goblin. You know what I mean? He's got a rogues gallery, and in the comics, anyone be like, I beat him and he got in jail, but then 15 to 20 issues later, he'd be back again, and then it would be the same thing. So, you got to rotate through them. So you're right. I would hate to be like, that's the only villain there. But speaking of Spider-Man,
it's good though. I enjoy it. Yeah,
Spider-Man did get a name drop when the Kingpin is delivering his stump speech. He's like all these freaks flying around and the guy with webs. So some clickbait headline I saw.
Did he mention somebody else too?
He did.
I don't know if you mentioned another character.
Made it sound like, this means that the Spider-Man is going to finally show down with the Kingpin. Kingpin is originally a Spider-Man character from the 60s, who became more of a Daredevil villain in the 80s with that big storyline.
It probably made sense because, quite honestly, Daredevil, his power level is low. So it makes sense that Kingpin would be a bigger threat to him than, say, Spidey. Because even though Kingpin is quite
formidable,
a big man,
even though in this he seems to now have superpowers.
He slimmed down. He slimmed down too.
Right. But he had superpowers in Hawkeye, like he was invulnerable.
Seemed like it, because he was like tossing people and
he got run into by a car and an explosion stuff. But anyway, this is great. So this is a Tuesday, 9 p.m. I felt bad because I was recording with Mark at the time, and I'm like, hey, can we go a little earlier so I can sneak in some Daredevil? Because I was dying to see it. But it's a timed release, which they dabble with that.
CTV.
They dabble with that to bring back my CTV. But anyway, that's it for the GE, the Geek Easy. I've got my phone out. got my Air Qantas app up because we're booking our flight to the land down under, where Hologram Tina and the mutants impatiently await for us to talk about non-MCU Marvel TV shows. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we're playing a game of Marvel TV non-MCU. So this goes back before the Disney acquisition, before the Fox acquisition. This goes back the very days that Marvel was a little bit behind the curve when it came to seeing their characters on the small screen.
Right.
And then all up until the days when
really
finally...
any screen, because there were no Marvel movies back then. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. At best, you got like a TV movie made for TV movies, which was a thing back in the day.
Right.
And those were pretty rough because the budget was based on a TV budget, not on a movie budget. So there you go. But before we get into that, we just want to say, because we're kind of in a good spot, I would say, with Marvel TV now, considering how Disney's now saying quality over quantity. We just got that with Daredevil. Yeah. And Chipotle Bear said, hey, rewatching Daredevil season 1 right now, waiting to start Born Again, so good. So basically, a lot of people felt like the Netflix stuff, even though it is canon, not so much canon, but a lot of people really like that.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Junior Aubrey, Charlie, is someone you know.
Yeah. And I will, yes. And speaking of my friend Aubrey, she is going to be taking over the USS Grand Petoskey, which is the Star Trek fan club chapter that April and I founded 5 years ago. So congratulations, Aubrey. I don't know that you listen.
Congratulations.
Now you'd have reason to. But anyway, Aubrey says, I never really got into any of the Marvel shows. I always just liked the movies, though I did watch a few episodes of Daredevil. I don't remember which ones, and it was years ago. And I enjoyed them, but I never got into the series. I might give it another go, though. Well, Aubrey, now's a good time to do that.
Yep. So we got a couple comments about the non-MCU stuff, but Charlie, I think what we'll do is we'll go through the non-MCU stuff, and then we'll say what we feel is the good, the bad, and the ugly, essentially.
Let's
at that
do
point.
it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So essentially, Marvel's start on TV started in a weird place, and that was when Spider-Man showed up on the Electric Company.
Yes, yeah, and it kicked
with Morgan Freeman, Rita Moreno hanging out, saying, "Hey, you guys!"
And this actually,
and there we go.
Yeah, it kicked off. There was a companion comic series that was also called Spidey Super Stories that ran an untold number of issues, but they were more kind of dumbed down, like Spider-Man fights the Twinkie monster or some weird bullshit like that. But yeah, this had 29 segments in seasons 4 through 6 of the Electric Company, and I love the Electric Company. Do we know where the Electric Company exists anymore, or is it just?
I'm sure there's clips on YouTube, but it was a PBS. I think it's obviously played on like PBS stations, but yeah, there's no like Renaissance or collections of the Electric Company as far as I know. And because it's got that part, but this was at a time when Marvel had no association with Hollywood, had no, studios involvement. So Marvel was essentially looking for people to get the rights to their stuff and show it anywhere. So it was kind of all over the place. So speaking of all over the place, the one they actually started with that I would say most people are familiar with, and it was a great start, was the Incredible Hulk TV series on CBS, 77 to 82. You got
5 seasons or 5 years.
And then essentially 3 made for TV movies. I think it was 3.
Now that was my first kind of in real time connection to it was the one where they had Daredevil and Thor was played by the guy.
It was the trial of the Incredible Hulk. Yeah,
Thor was played by the guy who was in one of the American Pie movies. He was the bouncer at the gay club who taught Jim how to dance. That was that, and he's also a Disney guy. He's been in a million. He was in one of the Disney shows in the early 2000s. That's what I remember. And the other guy, I think Kurt just interviewed him for something because he was at Motor City or something like that. But yeah, that was my real introduction to that, because it was the trial of the Incredible Hulk, and then there was the death of the Incredible Hulk, and then there was one before that. The death was obviously the last one, which the Incredible Hulk really can't die. But the Hulk in this series, he was played by Bill Bixby, the late Bill Bixby, as Banner.
Bruce Banner, David Banner
David
was.
Banner,
he didn't
right.
play the Hulk. Yeah,
No,
he didn't play the Hulk.
The Hulk was played by bodybuilder and strongman Lou Ferrigno, who is still with us, and he's very active on the con circuit. He shows up at cons all the time.
A deaf bodybuilder who rivaled Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time. Yeah,
they were in some bodybuilding documentary back in the day together. I remember seeing clips. And
it was a great show. I mean, it was more of a drama than it was really an action piece, and it was all about David Banner. Us a fugitive.
Hold on. Do 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 do. The sad walkaway music, which was spoofed so perfectly in an early episode of Family Guy with Stewie. Play that sad walkaway music from The Incredible Hulk. Do 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 do, and he would play that, and he would always be hitchhiking at the end. Right.
He looks back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But great show, just really, centered on the fact that he was a man tortured with the beast inside. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, and that was his thing because he didn't want the beast out. And there was a reporter who was trying to track him down. That was kind of like the main premise. So he was really good.
It was shades of like The Fugitive, the old show from the 60s, and then obviously the movie with Harrison Ford. And the great opening segment of this was beautifully spoofed in She-Hulk a couple of years ago, where they put her in there for that. So that was a fun show that probably exists. That's a Universal property. Because there was
you can really watch it on Amazon.
Yeah.
So
because
there's a link to the article.
The whole Universal property deals was held that up.
Title is unavailable due to expired rights.
Oh,
sorry.
That's too bad. Oh yeah, you're right. So search for it. Go to Todd and I use a website called justwatch.com or .tv. That's where you can find out where stuff is. And if not,
this article's on Geek. So we'll have the link to the article as well.
If not, it's probably out there. But the next one was, and this is the TV movie of this does not exist anymore. It's one of those bootlegs that you would grab, at a Comic-Con, of which that's how I got my copy of the Star Wars Holiday Special. But it was The Amazing Spider-Man, which turned into a show after that first TV movie. There were only 13 episodes. And again, CBS. So CBS, which now which now owns Star Trek, used to be the only game in town for Marvel. So 13 episodes aired between 78 and 79. That's really, really spaced out. It says Spidey suffers from a lot of the same problems as the Hulk. Todd mentioned the TV budget, the lack of any villains, because the Hulk never fought any supervillains. And Spider-Man never really did either. It says the series is still worth a look. I remember it. It was somewhere back in the 80s. The late 80s,
like Channel 50.
That when I became
something.
When I became
or just maybe even just the movie.
Yeah, when I became such a huge Spider-Man fan, I've definitely seen it. But Spider-Man, it's funny. Walmart is having their Collector Con next week, and their exclusive Spider-Man figure is this Spider-Man. So I'm going to have to pre-order it.
There was also a Spider-Man comic that had a picture cover of Spider-Man changing.
Yes, ASM 262.
Okay.
And it was funny because I want to pick that one up because there was a facsimile of it made last November. So I got to hit some local shops because that I'm doing comic frames. That's my leitmotif.
Not that actor, Nicholas Hammond.
No, it was just a guy, Nicholas Hammond, who was also one of the Von Trapp kids. I don't know if you knew that.
God, that's crazy.
Isn't that so nuts?
And just a companion piece to this, there's a great special on Disney Plus about the Japanese Spider-Man. That is also very fun.
He's right there on my shelf. I have the Japanese Spider-Man, not the big robot, just the guy.
No, it was just so much fun, so weird, and actually is the reason why we got Power Rangers is that Spider-Man show. Stan Lee was involved. It was crazy wacky. So we move on to a movie I saw the first time on Channel 50. It was Doctor Strange, the movie.
Never seen it. I am aware of it.
You can only watch. I guess you can buy it on DVD, Charlie.
Yeah, let's see. All right. Well, tell us all about it while I look at this link.
So this was a very weird, semi-faithful take on Doctor Strange, where you had Stephen Strange was a doctor and he somehow got involved with the mystic arts, and then you had he got mixed up with Morgan Le Fay, who is played by
Jessica
Archer's mother.
Oh, Jessica Walter. The late Jessica Walter.
And she was very sexy, but it was psychedelic. This was 1978. It was so weird, but highly enjoyable. And it was fun. Clea's in it. Wong's in it. It's very weird. It's very fun, very goofy. And I was like, this is amazing. As a kid, it was like anything Marvel in the 80s. It was just amazing. But yeah, only on DVD apparently, which is kind of crazy. And it's great because the Doctor Strange guy, amazing mustache, and they said it's basically made you feel the music and everything else felt very porny. So
very poor. Well, yeah, I've seen it. It absolutely looks like it.
So check YouTube. This might be on YouTube. Somebody might have made a dub off TV. So check it out there.
Oh, by the way, I just looked it up. One of the other movies we're going to talk about in a minute is out of print and sells for over $100. But we'll get there. This next one,
good. Get it.
This next one I own. I have my discs are all upstairs now, but I own this. Captain
are they
America.
Real or are they fake real?
Oh, what? What? I don't understand.
The discs.
No, my discs are real. It's a real disc.
No, and I mean, like, are they like the knockoffs you buy from the guy?
No. I have this. Okay. I have this, and it's still for sale on Amazon because
they made it for real. Oh, wow.
I went and grabbed the Doctor Strange and put it on one of my wish lists, and then this popped up. But I own this Captain America and Captain America 2: Death Too Soon, which is it has Reb Brown was the guy who played
these were on CBS.
Yeah, he played Captain America. Wow. They completely scrapped his origin story. This Captain America is a recently separated from the Marine Corps dude who drives up and down the Pacific coast of America in his van, which later became a thing for Captain America in the 80s, where he drove around the country in a van, following up on hotline calls. So he was fighting country.
It's like it's close to being like a serial killer.
Well,
thing.
Remember that song? We made love in my Chevy van, and that's all right with me.
Wasn't there also a Mark Hamill film called The Van?
No, that was Corvette Summer. You're thinking of Corvette Summer.
Oh, Corvette Summer.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Reb Brown, who it's funny, there's a local comic museum down in Elkhart, Indiana called the Hall of Heroes, and they have a con every year, and this guy is a frequent guest because he knows the owner of the con. So it's very weird. He has a weird costume and a weird like motorcycle helmet, and his shield is just a plastic see-through disc, not like the traditional one you see behind me. It was very bizarre. So I have the notable thing I can say about the second movie is that the villain is played by Christopher Lee. Count Dooku, Dracula, was in this made for TV movie.
Who was he playing?
The villain. The villain of
just the villain. Is that his real name?
A terrorist named Miguel.
That's what I think of Christopher Lee. Yeah, very, very, very Hispanic.
Definitely looks like a Miguel. They do make the point in this blurb that this has more in common with the $6 Million Man than the comics.
Which was also a CBS show, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could have been a lot of the same cat. But anyway, this is available on disc on Amazon, and it's very cheap.
We already talked about the next one, Thor: The Incredible Hulk Returns,
all the way down.
1988. Yeah.
Yes, we'll go all the way down to a movie that Todd and I got to watch together because this was when we were on it when we were together at MSU. Generation X.
Oh my goodness! I think I may even still own this on VHS because I actually recorded this off TV because when I saw commercials for it, I'm like, holy crap, what is this thing? Because it's not like I don't even know if TV Guide said it was coming out. Don't know.
Probably. Didn't know. We got TV Guide. TV Guide at the apartment. I know that.
This was like real in our wheelhouse. I was just back into comics, and the fact that we were getting this weird Generation X film, which was it was a new comic too. Generation X was a new comic where essentially it was like the next generation of New Mutants,
right?
And it was based on a man. Basically, you had Banshee and the White Queen teaching this new group of mutants, and we actually got that, and it was actually pretty good.
The White Queen was Finola Hughes.
Yes,
and
very attractive woman.
I absolutely remember that they made a Hootie and the Blowfish joke in this. It's like one of those things that stuck in my. They gave fake names, and they were agents Hootie and the Blowfish. I don't know why I remember that. But God.
It was great. And the fact that this actually happened.
The villain was the spectacular Matt Frewer, Mr. Max Headroom. This was great. Bumper Robinson was in it, who is an actor who is of note of stuff back then. He played one of the Jackson kids in the Jackson 5 TV movie, and he had a Star Trek turn as well as a Jem Hadar.
And
But
it's
yeah.
on YouTube if you want to watch this. If you want to watch Generation X,
I
it's on
would
YouTube.
love to. Oh, well, Todd, no list, and this is the end of the list, but no list would be
We
complete.
got more to talk about.
Yeah.
We got more to talk about.
But the end of this article anyway. But this is the disc I referred to a few minutes ago that when I was on Amazon costs over $100 because it is out of print. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. from Fox in 1998, played by none other than the Hoff himself, Mr. Knight Rider, Mr. Baywatch. And who was his Val? Wasn't it one of the women from Lisa something or other from Melrose Place.
Lisa Rinna? Was it
Yes.
Lisa Rinna?
That's yeah.
Ooh,
I
those
think
lips.
so. Yeah, those lips.
She's 90% lips, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. She's lips with feet, where some women are boobs with feet. She's lips with feet.
$7.
I know, right? Doesn't that kind of blow your mind?
Apparently, there's a DVD from 2014 that's only $10.36, though.
Oh, somebody's selling it as the used, but
And it's it's new. It's just sold not by Amazon, sold by somebody else on Amazon, and it's only $4. So you could buy it for $14, including shipping. Charlie,
I might need it. So Todd, you hit me up for Christmas. You missed my birthday.
Playback region 2. This will not play on most DVD players
there
in
you
the
go.
US. So you need like a player.
This one is dying for a reissue, but most people think of Nick Fury as Sam Jackson, which Sam Jackson, the black version of Nick Fury, was a character in a title called The Ultimates in the early 2000s. He was drawn to look like Sam Jackson, so that's how he ended up being cast in 2008 for Iron Man. But the original Nick Fury was a character from the 1960s, so yes, he's white. But I think Hoff nailed it without a doubt. But this was real Shield, like Shield, like Steranko Shield.
Had LMDs, had LMDs, I believe, in the movie. And David Goyer wrote this, and he went on to write Batman Begins and Man of Steel, two decent films.
Exactly correct. I would love to show this to April because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but she loves S.H.I.E.L.D. because the test website that she would do for her old job at Terryberry was a S.H.I.E.L.D. site, and so all of the pieces were S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and stuff. So I kind of fed her that info, and then she loved the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show that was on ABC. So I would love to show her this. But not for $107. So,
and Charlie, just remember, no one hassles the Hoff.
Oh my God! All right, so
no one out pizzas the Hut. It's exactly the same. So we're gonna do like a really quick walkthrough of the other shows because there's not much here, but we can at least talk about it. So, I think going through these things we might have missed is Spider-Man had multiple animated series. So there's Spider-Man. You had basically the Spider-Man cartoon, but the one that really took off was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. This introduced us to, lots of cool Marvel characters, including like Namor was in it, Doctor Doom, Swarm, and all these characters.
Don't forget that this was the one that that show gave us Wolverine with an Australian accent and referred to Magneto as Magneto. So yes, there are definitely some things to iron out.
I think Wolverine said dingo. Yes, he did. Because you had the cool thing about this show was it was done like Marvel Animation with Sunbow and all those things. Yeah. They took like Spider-Man, teamed him up with Iceman and Firestar, which was created for the show.
They're right
with
there.
Miss Lion, Aunt May.
They have a little section, and the Firestar figure came with Miss Lion. So I have a little tiny Miss Lion in the shelf you see directly behind me if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah, just a great show. It was fun.
It's still on Disney Plus. I watched it. I watched a few episodes not that long ago. Yeah. So
it was one of mine as a kid, showing tuning in TV on Saturdays. Loved it. It was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, especially because I was an X-Men fan. There was a special episode with X-Men. It was just great.
Right.
Loved it. Chameleon. There was like a murder mystery episode with Captain America with Chameleon. It was like 4 little spider heroes. It was like, this is so much fun. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So what else? How about Blade the series, Charlie? You remember Blade the series on Spike Television?
Not even remotely aware of it. I have no idea.
12 episodes, 2006, and it was it was a rap dude who played Blade. It was
a rap dude.
I can't remember what his name was.
You gotta click. Hold on,
I'll look it up.
I'll click. I'll do it. It was starring
Kirk Sticky Fingers Jones.
No idea who that is, and I know
Okay, yeah.
I know rap guys, and so I feel so much.
Oh yeah, you know rap guys.
I know rap guys, absolutely.
How about Legion, Charlie?
Oh,
how about Legion?
Jump all the way down to Legion. I watched a couple of episodes, and that was Kinberg and Bad Hat Harry. So it was Singer who did the X-Men movies I was just talking about. This said it was connected to the X-Men film series, but I watched the first three episodes. I know Aubrey Plaza was a character. Definitely
was a villain. She was the the king. Oh God, I'm blanking his name. Oh,
she was the king.
No, basically there was a villain that I can't remember his name. Basically, a very cool villain with the X-Men who was an antagonist to Charles Xavier. I can't remember his name, but it was something King. But yeah, this was a weird show.
Was it the Red
cast?
Was it Red King?
No.
Okay, fine.
My God. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, kind of like a weird show, musical dance numbers, very weird. But with Legion, the character that it was Charles Xavier's son, who he basically had multiple personalities that all had different abilities. This was a show where you didn't know what was real and what was made up in David's mind. So very interesting show. Gotcha. This was an FX show, very different.
I have
to gift it. Go ahead.
I have to jump in. I'll get the next two. We did finally break down and watch The Inhumans because it is on Disney Plus, and it was exactly everything you've heard about it. God awful, low budget story that went nowhere. Medusa, who's one of the main Inhumans, remember that ABC, because they didn't have. Because Disney didn't have the right to the X-Men, they tried to make the Inhumans a thing. Like, they
tried to make the Inhumans fetch, Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. It was like Medusa, who's one of the main characters. They cut her hair off in the first episode. It was like that's the entire character. It was
like when you cut off Felicity's hair. What's going to happen? She's going to lose her abilities.
Yes, exactly. What were her abilities? I don't know. I don't know.
Shadow King is the character I was thinking.
Shadow King. There you go.
There you go.
The Gifted is the other show that you mentioned. This was on Fox. I enjoyed this show. It was funny. One of the characters looks like my stepdaughter. It was weird. It was like that's her.
Amy Asher. She was Fred on Angel. She was in the show.
Yeah.
And it basically was all about these. It was weird because you had elements of the X-Men. Mm-hmm. They were mentioned. There were characters like Polaris, who was part of this, and it didn't want to tie it all together. But I thought The Gifted was a pretty good show.
Me too.
As long as I watched it, but I fell off pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know that I finished it, and I don't know that it concluded. It probably got the axe because of Disney, whatever. I don't know, or maybe just wasn't popular at all. All right, so we covered all the we made mention of the Netflix shows. There's Jessica Jones, The Defenders.
Those are MCU though. They always said those are MCU.
They didn't always say that, but now they kind of are. But we'll slide down to The Runaways, which was on for 3 seasons. We only talked about 2.
And it was one of Hulu's first original shows.
Yeah, and so they were obviously.
I didn't know there was 3 seasons.
Yeah, there were obviously 10 or 11 episodes per season. There were 33 episodes, and it covered that relatively newish group of superheroes who were literally runaways because all their parents were supervillains, as I recall. And so we watched it. I mean, we even watched the next one that we're going to talk about.
I thought Runaways first season was good. Good comic good first season. Went a little weird at times. They did a little bit different things, but a good attempt. I wish it was better. Yeah. Which then leads us into the next show, which always brings me back to the network that was ABC Family and became what, Charlie?
Freeform,
Does it still exist?
I don't do. I haven't had cable in so many years. I have no idea. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But yeah, we're talking about Cloak and Dagger, which again, Spider-Man characters, spectacular Spider-Man characters. But yeah, they changed the setting to New Orleans, which makes no sense because they were a pair of again teenage runaways. A black guy and a white woman who became, integral into themselves. I know the characters simply because of their time in Spider-Man, but again, it kind of feels like the Spumco. You take Spider-Man characters out of having Spider-Man around it, and where are they? You know what I mean? So clearly not a popular show. Is 210 episodes.
It was very much like a freeform show, though.
Yeah.
It was so into the teen romance, and it's like Romeo and Juliet, like separated lovers. And there was a crossover between Cloak and Dagger and Runaways, which I never saw, but it did happen. Yeah,
I wasn't even aware of that. And then the last one before we really go all the way into because everything else on here is the MCU, is a show that Todd, I never watched it. And it's a Hulu show from 2020, according to the showrunner, not part of the MCU, though obviously there was some questions around that. Hellstrom, one season of 10 episodes from 2020. So this is from 5 years ago. We talked because we've been making the show for over 10 years. I know we talked about this. Did you watch any of it?
No, it was so weird because it was about, Damon Hellstrom is like the son of Satan in the comics.
Yeah.
With, Defenders was like, he was synonymous with that. They did comics with it, but this was about his kids. There were two kids that were like, and they were investigating like paranormal stuff. And I'm like, okay, now this is just like, it just has the name on it. It probably has nothing to do with it.
Right.
But yeah, I remember that show. And I'm like, this was the death knell. Although there's a couple others that I did find that I do want to touch on.
Okay.
So any others that come to your mind?
No, you caught me on the spot. I don't know. Hit me.
Okay. So one of those shows was Hit Monkey. So Hitmonkey, character that's part of the Marvel Comics, had an animated series on Hulu. It was R-rated, over the top, fun. Jason Sudeikis actually is a voice in the series. I watch it; it's fun. It's a fun show. It's just weird about a monkey who basically an assassin is a ghost. And there's a monkey who essentially starts wearing a suit because all of his monkey friends got killed by groups, so he becomes an assassin. It makes no sense, but it's so funny because Jason Sudeikis is the assassin ghost.
Oh my god!
Can basically talk to this monkey. It's very goofy, very fun. It's over the top.
How bizarre.
The other one, Charlie, but this was a Hulu show in 2021.
Okay.
MODOK.
Yes. Oh, I adored MODOK. I absolutely adored it because it starred my favorite comedian of the modern era, a guy who I've seen in concert a couple times. I'd love to meet in real life, Patton Oswalt. Awesome guy. He is a paragon of our community. He's a geek. Comic reading, great guy. He's been in a ton of different stuff, but it was the animated style of it. Kind of looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It was kind of like that style, if I remember correctly, because it wasn't really animated, but it was MODOK, who is he's right there on my shelf. I've got the traditional MODOK figure.
It's Robot Chicken style for anybody who thinks.
There
about
we
it.
go. That's there. Yeah. So it's about kind of his life done in kind of a sitcom-y, like I just can't get any respect at work because he works for AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, the guys in the beekeeper suits. I'm sitting just out of frame of all my Marvel figures, but I've got a bunch of AIM underlings. Matter of fact, Wonder Man, who I picked up, his role on the shelf is he's standing. He has his foot on one and standing over him because I guess in this the Avengers are fighting AIM. Whatever. But yeah, fun show. But it was not popular and did not get picked up for more episodes, which is
so funny.
Yeah,
I thought that show did so much, and I think more seasons would have been great for that show. But I totally get it, and I hope Disney Plus does some things, goofy stuff like this.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Have some fun with some of these properties. Like, who's dealing with MODOK anyways? Do weird stuff with them. I have one last show, Charlie. Any more in your wheelhouse?
I'm going to rip through this list of pilots. There's a section. There was a pilot for.
Oh, I saw that too. But I have one do you want me to do one that's official first, and then we can do the on-air pilots?
Let me just throw this in here right here. There's one that's Power Pack, which is a comic that April loves from 1991, which apparently did air on NBC, but I've never seen it and never heard of it. And then,
really, I would love to find that.
And two unaired pilots, Marvel's Most Wanted, which was to spin off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with two characters from that. And then
right. The one that nobody wanted. They tried to make that happen and nobody wanted that.
And then The New Warriors, which was a great young hero team from the 90s in 2017, was developed by, again, Freeform. It was rejected and never found another home. I didn't know about that at all. So that's interesting. Aww. All right, you finish us up.
Okay, this is the last one, and I mean the last one, but this is the one that just really boggles my mind how this actually happened, and that is Mutant X. This was a syndicated TV series. in 2001 to 2004, a lot of actors you know of, including the actor who played Lex Luthor on Lois and Clark, basically played the head of these mutants, and it was syndicated. And it was intended to be a series about the X-Men, but they had to change the show for legal reasons, even though Marvel was a production company, Charlie. So talk about like not being brave enough to try something. But I remember that it got 3 seasons, 66 episodes. And I'm assuming this is available somewhere to watch. I remember being on, I'm like, I didn't even try to watch this. I'm like, this looks like trash.
Yeah, and we didn't even get into the tons of other animated. There have been Fantastic Four cartoons throughout the years.
Bad animated stuff.
Yeah, of course, the X-Men, the Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America. Oh my God! All the in the 2000s, there's been Avengers series. There's been new X-Men. Yeah, like I said, new X-Men, more Spider-Man, Wolverine, blah 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 blah. This was great. This was a lot of fun. And again,
before we exit, though, Charlie, I know you want to exit because we've got to hit on a couple of the comments about people's favorite non-MCU shows. So, Daddy Wally says, to be fair, the MCU existed when Logan was made, so I wouldn't count that, of course. But you could, I guess, because at the time, and because of Deadpool, I guess Deadpool really kind of counts. But he says Spider-Man in 1 and 2 is up there for him. So the original one's not amazing. Yeah. So I totally get that. And then Eric says X2 is my probably number 2, then Spider-Man 2. Good picks. Those are X2 and Spider-Man 2 are both great picks.
Very good.
So Charlie, now, what would you say are your good, the bad, and the ugly of the non-MCU TV?
Well, the good is Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad would be, because so many of them fall into bad. The bad would be maybe Cloak and Dagger. And then the ugly... God, I'm going to have to go back to the list. I'll come back with my ugly after you go. Go ahead.
Okay, my good would be The Incredible Hulk. I think that show, considering when it launched, what it did, that is the show that I think that was the like, wow, this is amazing that Marvel could pull that off. The bad, and I'm going to take this so bad it's good, is going to be the Nick Fury movie. I mean, not good, but it's fun. It got it, and it was pretty good. So I like that. I'll also put Generation X. I just think those two are kind of married at birth.
I got an ugly Iron Fist. We already talked about it.
Well, that's MCU kind of, I guess. But yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Still net.
I get it.
No. I'm sorry. The Inhumans. The Inhumans is the ugly. It's the absolute worst.
Do they count that as anything?
No. It's ABC. The same way they don't count Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm going to put Hellstrom as the ugly because that is a show that nobody watched, nobody wanted, and they tried to make fetch happen with just a name that nobody knows except for me and you. We're their audience. It's like, what?
Yeah. And you sound like Amber Says What from Seth. And I was like, what?
I mean, what? Did we get like a cameo or maybe it was Damon Hellstrom where he's got like the deep V, he's got the thing, he's got the trident and comes down and hangs out with the Defenders? Probably not. And that was the only thing that would make me watch that show.
Exactly correct. All right. Well, speaking of shows, that is our show. Thank you, as always, everybody, for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
They could follow me on the Blue Sky at Todd Oxtra, at Secret Friends Unite, and we're putting more stuff on Instagram, so follow us there at Secret Friends Unite, and you can see some fun things which actually then post to Threads, which means I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I do that when I share inflammatory stuff on Facebook. I do that with the cross posting, but
the triple threat.
I don't generally promote myself on Facebook, so don't look for me there. But you will find me as at the C3 THECEETHREE on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. And again, the best place to interact with fellow geeks in our sphere is on our Secret Friends Unite Discord. Come join us, post, share, have a good time. We would love to see you there. Friends, one last time, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Vanessa, I've changed.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.